Hey, gang, if we're talking Huskers football, we're talking about the good guys.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, it is the weekend before. Whoo, we got this weekend and then next weekend, and then we got Huskers football. Outstanding. I'm DP. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. We appreciate you. Thank you for you folks who have subscribed. If you haven't, hit pause. I'll wait for you. Hit the subscribe button. Come on back and let's talk some Huskers football. But first, let Mark Unweiler let you know about eBay Motors.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride! eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. DP, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. It is a beautiful weekend, hot everywhere. Football weather. Great end of camp weather where the sweat is profuse and plentiful and it's all in play. And it's that time of year where decisions are made and identification happens, where Nebraska's coaches will give you insight and intel about the personality, the brand, the culture of the football team as it develops. And what happens over the course of these important weeks is that certain names become elevated, amplified, multiplied. You hear them the most with good things in line. When I said let's hear it for the good guys. Nebraska coaches, and specifically Tony White, was the most recent of coaches to speak about the good guys. The good guys. And there's several boxes to check in this thing, right? The conversation of the people who play the game of football for the University of Nebraska and the football players. And there is a space between them. There's a bridge between Luke Reimer, the man, and Luke Reimer, the Nebraska football player. A lot of what's being highlighted currently are the people, the first side of this thing. And then a week from now, 10 days from now, we'll start to get into the football player. But as a coach, what I would tell you is that you're able to identify great people make great players make great people. And we constantly coach from that, and we factor into and we push, we kind of funnel folks into these channels where we can identify people that we trust, people who have earned the trust, people who we need the trust from and haven't had it, and then how we're going to aspire to get it. Because if we can figure that last one out, we can bridge the gap between good football players and great football players. Good people and great people. If you have bad people on your football team, you have bad football players on your team. It is a common thing that's in play. We'll also talk about which thing is valued more, the person or the football player. And the coaching staff is giving you hints and ideas. And at Nebraska, they've done a certain thing and bringing in old traditions and to say, okay, we're going to make these single-digit numbers a thing of importance, and it'll help us identify, elevate, and amplify the good people in our program. Don't think good players, think good people who happen to also be good players, or great people who happen to be great players. And the chant of one of us is to create a culture and a climate where good is preferred, it's welcomed, and expected. So Nebraska, Matt Rhule, and what Nebraska is doing now is constantly messaging its fan base, constantly messaging its roster, constantly messaging its opponents that, look, we have good people and good people are expected. The standard of character and integrity in a program matters. And for Nebraska's culture and the program itself, it needs a team that is filled with, occupied with, buoyed by, and led by good and great people. And they've talked about it. And the quote is, people over football player. And it's important to say that. But the names that were identified recently, of course, a week ago, Jeff Sims, Billy Kemp IV, Luke Reimer, these were names that were bandied about. Isaac Gifford, players who were good people. The one of us folks, those good people who are also playing good football because of their character and integrity. They show up, they're prepared, they're positive, they're effective, all the things that you can identify and tie directly to good. What has happened in the meanwhile is that some additional players have been mentioned, and I want to talk about those players. We'll get into the full of it in the next segment, but I want to just announce who these additional 3 players were. One of them being Nash Hutmacher, which getting the big zero for a lineman, a defensive lineman at that. And there are offensive players, and we'll close with what the other offensive players. But Husker fans noted, well, geez, wait a minute. There's only 2 offensive players that have single-digit numbers. What happens? Does that mean the defense is they're better people, better players than the offensive players? Well, what's been identified are leaders, and no matter how you hand them out or distribute them, the fact that you're getting to them and identifying Nash Hutmacher. Now, you're talking about a player that has cachet in the community. Folks know who he is, and they think about him, and they know about him, and there's some expectation. But to find out that the 22-year-old is now maturing into a leader and is trustworthy and is putting in the work and is being prepared. And then you think about Tony White and his 3-3-5 defense, that there will be situation and circumstance where there need to be 2 big boys up front. And if you can imagine Ty Robinson and Hutmacher side by side, it should raise an eyebrow to and how you scheme and how you defend. And there'll be times when there'll be 4 big guys out there. And as Tony White said today, Big Ten football, you can never have enough bigs. You can never have enough bigs. No matter what the number is, no matter what the depth level is, you just can't have enough. But Hutmacher being one of the good people. Nick Henrich, also going single digit, number 3. How important is it in the evolution of Nick Henrich? Gone through injury, was thrown into the fire early in his career, found some success, got injured, new coaching staff, then another new coaching staff, and then the work that was required to get yourself back available, back healthy, and then back in a leadership position. That's a pretty powerful statement you can make by Nick Henrich. And to find out that his peers and his leaders feel like he is rightfully amongst the elite single-digit 10 is what I would imagine if they give them all out. Not sure that they are, but he's in that group. If any of these raised an eyebrow, it was John Bullock. Being a local kid, being a Creighton Prep kid who has evolved as an athlete and then evolved as a football player, what this statement means is that as a person, as a young man, the redshirt junior from Creighton Prep is personifying every good thing that Matt Rhule and this coaching staff and this roster feel is necessary for there to be success on the field and off for this Nebraska football team and these players. The people matter. The coaching staff and the roster are starting to identify, amplify, elevate, and speak to who those good people are. We'll turn to break here. We'll come back. We'll get a little bit more detail because there's some other things that have been put into play about people versus player and what that means in a time where development is vital. I'm DP. This is Live. Thank you, DP here. Greatly appreciate you hanging out with us for Locked On Huskers on the weekend. We're just sliding in through the week and give you some extra content. We don't want you. We know, like, is there scrimmage going on, and there's all sorts of details, and we'll be able to talk about that on Monday. But in the meantime, for this one, just to chef's kiss and whet the appetite to talk about Nebraska football, and more importantly, the young men that are playing football at the University of Nebraska. And we mentioned the single-digit club and its elite level persons. These people who wear the numbers and who have been awarded these jerseys and the prestige of being a single-digit leader, a captain, a force, an icon, a North Star for how behavior, character, integrity would work and should look for somebody as a part of this program. These are the standard bearers for all good things on the field and off, in the locker room, on the bus, in the hotel, in the mess hall, in the streets, and in the classroom. I don't want to forget that. But these are the best of the best of the best. And it helps you identify exactly what Matt Rhule, Marcus Satterfield, Tony White, what they're looking for in an identity for this team and this program. Nebraska is moving away from the, oh my goodness, what's going on now phase of their legend. They're moving away from, oh my goodness, how sad is that? They're moving away from the whispers, because as people whisper about your program, they're not yelling in confidence of your program. When your fan base spends more time asking questions and whispering, you're missing on the message, and you're missing on the development, and you're missing on the mission. But when you can get loud and profound, that we have found 7 wonderful young men to represent the end, to be the North Star for this program, to set the standard and re-identify the Nebraska football program. It is a time to rejoice, throw confetti in the air, get the fights on, strike up adversity, because you're giving good things to good people. As Tony White said, good people are being rewarded for being good people. And there's no disclosure required when you simply award for good people being good people on the field or off. That is what the Nebraska student-athlete experience should be about. And you should be able to hold these young people up high, put them on a pedestal, and let everybody know that this is what we're aspiring to. This is what we're hoping for. This is the standard we're setting. Because once you set that as the standard, then the development that follows is inevitable. The single digit folks are they're the standard and the GPS. Who we are, where we are, how we got there. And then at the other end of it, what it should look like in its ideal situation, time, and circumstance. What do we want Nebraska football to look like? And the players and people who have been identified, they line up as a North Star for what everybody else has to target and has to work as a standard. And they've been consistent in this excellence. This is not a one-off. This is not you having a good day at the practice field. This is not you making a great play. This is everything. This is everything. And Matt Rhule and this coaching staff now have an iconic list of young people that everybody else, if you want to know how Nebraska football plays and how the men of Nebraska's football program behave, how they work, how they effort, how they think, how they speak, how they process, well, you now have set a solid, rock-solid 7-deep standard. And everybody else knows. They work out with them. They see them in the gym. They see them in the mess hall. They get the academic reports. They're sitting in film study and listening to the level of preparedness and structure and knowledge. Oh, and then, by the way, they're playing some really good football when they put their hand in the turf. But this is about the people over the football player. In every coaching tunnel vacuum space, the player cannot exceed the person, because in the game, they won't. Who you are shows up in full. All the things that you find out on Saturday afternoon in the autumn all across the country, specifically here in Lincoln, Nebraska, is a result of all the other things that show up in the lives of these young people. What shows up on Saturday in the football player is a result of what has been put in play, what has been worked on, efforted, grown all that week, all that month prior, all summer prior, all off season prior. And the good people, the people who have worked at the same level in July that they're going to need to play at in October. They've done the academic work. They've been a good teammate. They've been a great student. They've been a great person in the community. These are all folks who have put in the work, and now the statement is made, and then everybody else gets to look at them, whether it's horizontally at the same level, whether it's you looking from beneath them. You get to see what ideal is. And having numbers, having quantity to go along with your quality, this is not one player, this is 7. And if you can find 10, then you can cover not only the corners of your yard, but you can cover the gateway, the exit plan, the top of the fence, the bottom of the fence, and the ground below. That is foundation. That is standard. That is the building block for culture. And Matt Rhule and his coaching staff have been talking about it, and now they've identified who those icons are. Well done, gentlemen. Well done. DP, Locked On Huskers. We'll be right back. Hey, gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. If you have not, pause, freeze, hit the subscribe button. Also, what you can do, especially if you're on YouTube, click it. The share button's right there. The arrow's right there. Click share, put it on your timeline, let folks know. As a matter of fact, I'm working on some prizes for people that share this content. Yeah, we're working on that. It's coming. It's coming. I want to say that. To close it out, again, more of the philosophy and thinking and verbiage from defensive coordinator Tony White. And he said these 3 words for what he wants and expects from not only this Nebraska football team on defense, but the team itself. The team itself. This is what he's talking about. He needs for this team to be physical and fast. Physical and fast. 3-3-5. Physical and fast, run through the ball. And what's required there is knowledge of the expectation, being familiar with what you see, and being free to make plays. That's what this is all about. And you can't play physical and fast without having some understanding of what you see, what your job is, what the task is, what the responsibility is, and then go and make the play, not only for yourself, but for your teammates. Be there, play fast and physical, play fast and free, play physical and free. Go and make plays. And defensively, when you look at the list of players that we're talking about, Luke Reimer and his ability to see what's going on, the experience of it all, Nick Henrich being able to play as though he has seen most of these things before, for Isaac Gifford and John Bullets, where the game has started to slow down to the point where chaos doesn't exist anymore. That's when you know that you're actually developing. You're developing young men. You're developing players. And through that, you're going to free up some other folks to do what they do well until they get up to the speed of those magical 5 defenders that you've identified as single-digit guys. that allows you to bring on Ty Robinson, Malcolm Hartzog, Deshaun Singleton. Like, you've got people who haven't been mentioned a lot, but we know they can play. And we also know that they're being measured, they're being elevated, they're being lifted up because they now have a standard that they have to work from and then a goal that they can work to. Fast and physical. Play free, young men. Play free. We've got to see some names. I'm going to leave with this one because I want you to understand it. In the offseason, the two names on either side of the ball that were maybe thought about the most and had the highest level of expectation. MJ Sherman, Thomas Fidone. I'm just going to plant the seeds. Ethan Piper strikes me as a single-digit guy. He made the trip to Indianapolis, represented the team in fine fashion, form, and fit. That would leave two. And you can go to the defensive backs where you're 7 deep, or that playmaker up front, that offense buster in MJ Sherman. And then that guy who has put in the work, whose body looks different, and everybody says is one of the most talented athletes on the campus at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. We'll talk more next week about MJ Sherman, Thomas Fidone, and more. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. In the meanwhile, hey, enjoy your weekend. Let's get that vocal practice in because we're 10 days out from having to shout this in unison. Go Big Red.